I just experienced my worst nightmare as an action figure collector. These are Spider-Man figures from Marvel Legends, and they are probably the most messed up figures I've ever owned. What's up geeks, Kirk here, and welcome to the Geek Effect. So this is the Marvel Legends 2-pack for Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, and it was one of the most anticipated Legends of 2022. I remember it like it was yesterday. The Marvel Legends team revealed these figures on their Hasbro Pulse stream, and I was basically that moment from the Lego Batman movie. That's right, the one that became a meme toward the end of 2023.
Oh my...
Hi, Dad.
I just died on your arms tonight.
Anyway, the hype was real. Hasbro promised us a spanking new Spider-Man body, a fresh suit, and the debut of Spinneret, all for $55.99. This was released as a part of a celebration for Spider-Man's 60th anniversary, a nice way of introducing these figures into the Marvel Legends lineup, if you ask me. I confess, I hadn't read the comic series these figures were based on, but I was excited regardless. Little did I know, I'd open these figures 1 year later and get rocked like a hurricane. So the figures come in Hasbro's former plastic-free packaging, which is no different from the countless other boxes we have received. My box has definitely seen better days though. I promise it was not like this when I originally got it. It's been a very rough road for it, and this will be the first Marvel Legends box I throw away rather than convincing myself that I need to keep it. Looking at the details, we have the front of the box featuring the characters, while the sides feature comic book art and renders of the figures. The back of the box also showcases the figures again, and their accessories are listed there as well. As I said, this is the usual layout. However, I did appreciate the different comic book covers behind the characters. I am a sucker for those little details when it comes to presentation. With that out of the way though, let's look at where my problems began. The figures. I do want to start this by saying kudos to Hasbro. They did achieve what they wanted to with these figures for the most part. I mean, the sculpt for both of them is on point. Spider-Man's physique depicting the Renew Your Vows vibe flawlessly, especially those glossy big eyes on the head sculpt. And despite having no prior knowledge of this character, I think Spinneret's figure is pretty cool, especially for her action figure debut. Her head sculpt is a standout to me, and it instantly became a favorite, especially based on the Marvel Legends I've collected in the past. Take Spinneret's hairstyle for example, which is a distinct look of the character's design in the comics. And then looking at what Hasbro gave us, it's on par with that look, so I have no gripes with it. This is definitely one of my favorite things about this figure. But, and there's always a but, this is where my love for these figures ends and where my problems began. So as I was unboxing this Spider-Man and messing around with him a bit, I spot this weird separation between the shoulders and some gummy joints in the biceps. This isn't my first action figure rodeo. I've been collecting these Marvel Legends figures for about 2 years now, but this is the first time I've experienced a quality control issue like this. And it really caught me off guard too, because the Deadpool figure that uses the exact same body had none of these problems, yet here we are with this figure 1 year later and it's not looking too good. My biggest concern with this is that if I'm posing this figure, I think this is going to be a major problem down the line, especially since they seem pretty weak and flimsy, and if I bend this the wrong way while posing, it could potentially break. At this point, I'm thinking to myself, this is just one casualty. It couldn't possibly get worse from here, Kirk. You're gonna be a-okay, and I was wrong because there's a big issue at the back of the figure as well. So the back spider emblem, a crucial detail, isn't so great. Push Spider-Man's arms forward and boom, the spider emblem breaks apart, revealing a subpar paint job. There should definitely be more blue paint here so that as you push the arms forward, it keeps that consistency and the legs of the spider don't break apart, causing this thing to look awful. Now yes, if you're looking at this figure from the front, you're not gonna have an issue with this, not a big deal. But flip this thing around and it's like discovering Spidey's secret weakness. I also discovered some of the blue paint on the left shoulder was inconsistent when you push the arms back, and that clearly should not be the case because when I did the same thing with the right shoulder, you see more blue paint as you're pushing it back. This was a disappointment because I was looking forward to this figure after having it sealed for so long. Have you seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street? Remember that scene when Nancy thinks she's escaped Freddy Krueger and hops in the car with her friends, only to realize she's in the Freddy mobile and the nightmare isn't over? That's how I felt when I saw my Spinneret also had issues. But the upper area of Spinneret's figure and the upper thigh area, it's a very vibrant red, and same thing at the back of the figure. However, when you look at the middle section, it's discolored and it's very noticeable, and once you see it, it's kind of hard to unsee it. This is honestly a bummer because when you look at the promo images, Spinneret has vibrant red for all of these areas, yet when you unbox the figure and have it in person, that's not the case. Additionally, there's even a break in the webline pattern near her waist, and that's something that was also noticeable in the promo shots when I looked at them, so it's not like Hasbro was trying to cover this up or something. It was simply an oversight, I think, and in my opinion, it's it's not that big of a deal compared to everything else that's going on with these figures. It is expected for mass-produced figures to have some inconsistencies, but in my 2 years of collecting, this is by far the worst quality control I've seen on my figures yet. Besides these issues, the other thing I wish they did with Spinneret was cover up the ports on her back, especially since this one right here ruins the look of her spider emblem. Earlier, I mentioned these figures came with some additional items, and they're pretty neat. Spider-Man and Spinneret both have unmasked heads for Peter Parker and Mary Jane. The attention to detail on each looks fantastic, especially the level of detail for Mary Jane's facial features. Both heroes also have the essential hands every Spidey needs: web shooting hands, wall crawling hands, and fist, which is where my next problem arose with Spinneret. Spinneret's left wrist is too loose and wobbly compared to the right. So just like Spider-Man's messed up bicep, this also concerns me because if I'm pulling this out of the socket, the last thing I want to see is this thing break and then I can no longer use it. All problems aside, I do appreciate the accessories we got with Spidey and Spinneret, especially when you think of the fact that Marvel Legends Spider-Man figures these days kind of have an inconsistency with their hands. Sometimes they come in pairs and then other times it's just one of each type of hand or just a random assortment. I'm hoping in 2024 they'll normalize giving their Spideys multiple types of hands and keeping them in pairs, at least for the ones that really need them. When it came to this pack and celebrating Spidey's anniversary, the Marvel Legends team wanted to update Spider-Man's articulation. They included everything seen on their Wave 1 retro card Spidey, like butterfly joints, diaphragm cut, and a boot swivel, to name a few. They also gave him a couple of improvements, like these all pinless joints giving this figure a clean look, and even toe articulation, which hasn't been on a Marvel Legends figure in forever if you don't count Beast from X-Men. Huge thanks to Dan Yoon, who mentioned on stream how he advocated for this to be a part of this figure.
When Dan says he had to convince the team, he is underselling that. It was a point that I needed to be reiterated many times, but Dan did it for you fans.
Most of the articulation points have an excellent range of movement, giving you a dynamic Spider-Man, but it's a shame the head can't tilt further than this and has this weird floating head appearance from the side view. It's the same problem I had with the retro card line Spidey, and I'm not sure why they didn't seize the opportunity to improve this, especially considering that they are improving other joints on this figure. Spinneret's articulation is another story. Considering the dynamic movement of this character, you would expect some flex, right? Well, you don't get that here, and it's a missed opportunity because the Marvel Legends Black Widow that was released in 2023 has a waist crunch joint, giving it more dynamic range, and this is something that Spinneret could definitely benefit from. Spinneret's diaphragm can be tilted back, but it can't crunch forward, which makes her feel stiff when posing, a major disappointment for me and limits the figure's potential. When it comes to the rest of the articulation points on this figure, I don't have any complaints with them. They all move and operate the way I would expect them to. You can still create some awesome poses with these figures, but based on my experience, Spider-Man will offer the highest level of enjoyment. And after testing them out for a bit, these were some of my results. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy these figures to some degree. Perhaps that's just my Spider-Man obsession to blame. However, with all bias put aside, I am torn when it comes to these figures. On one hand, the designs are great to have as figures, but on the other hand, their quality and features took a heavy hit, which lessened my enjoyment. The last time I expressed multiple gripes of some kind with Marvel Legends was my Retro Kraven the Hunter review, and as I said then, this video is in no way meant to bash or shame Hasbro. Instead, I'm just here sharing my genuine feelings and experience with you all, so you know what you may expect if you happen to get these figures, and it's also just feedback for Hasbro themselves if they happen to watch this video. I am curious to hear your thoughts on these figures, so be sure to drop a comment below, and while you're at it, check out this video to see this same Spider-Man body turned into an amazing Deadpool figure. I'll catch you all soon with more action figure goodness, but until then, peace.